So hello and welcome back to Exploring Azeroth with Beryl and Onyx. Today we're going to be going through the Dragonblight, which is a huge and fascinating area that I realized as I was going through this. It's been a long time since I actually went through the Alliance side of it. It's weird, for whatever reason, I almost always do Dragonblight on my Horde characters, and I'm not really sure why. As always, I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot of stuff, so drop it in the comments down below if I miss something incredible. But we're going to zip through and just kind of hit all the good parts. And that's beginning with the Carrion Fields, which is in the shadow of Naxxramas. And it's, like I said, it's been a long time since I've done the Alliance side questing, and now I'm kind of deeply regretting that because I actually really like this area.
Here there.
And from what I understand, it's actually phased, which is kind of cool. I did not realize that, although I feel like Wrath is the first time we really started seeing phased content in World of Warcraft. But yeah, and Naxxramas is probably one of my least revisited raids. So I ran through it when I was finished filming this and was like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun. I need to see if there's anything really cool in there that I have forgotten about that I want to get. Anyway, like I said, Wintergard Keep is right here by the old town of Wintergard, and it has a mausoleum that I found really interesting. Not so much because it's a mausoleum, although I feel like we don't have that many of them in the game, but in the fact that it's almost exactly like the one that is up in the graveyard near Stormwind. Not in Stormwind, I'm just having one of those brain fart moments where I can't remember the name of the zone. It's dark, it's foggy, and it's full of werewolves. I'll remember it as soon as I'm not recording. But yeah, this is almost a carbon copy of that underground crypt that's there. Just obviously with much higher level mobs. And it's a carbon copy right down to the fact that it has a secret tunnel that connects it with the other part of the mausoleum, which I thought was really cool. Now, evidently, this tunnel that I'm about to go through is so secret it's not even on the mini-map. And according to the mayor, who we will see later, Godfrey Goddard, the mausoleum was built by the humans right underneath Wintergard Village, and it's currently being used as a source for undead, scourged type constructs by the residents in Naxxramas. At least that's according to Wowhead and Wowopedia. So whether that's true or not, I'm not actually sure, but it's a cool place and I enjoyed going through it, not gonna lie. I thought it was pretty cool. I also like all of the Scourge test subjects and the leper gnomes that are in the mausoleum proper, which is where we are going to exit through. I just thought it was kind of cool, honestly. And then once we're out of here, we are going to head over to Wintergard Keep, which is the main Alliance base in Dragonblight. It's high up in the hills, and I even found a cool little shack that I don't think I had ever noticed before. It's also really, really cool, Wintergard Keep, in that it has, I think, the only high elf sanctum that's actually in an Alliance main base. It's kind of trippy to see it because you look at it and you're like, oh look, it's a blood elf building, and then you realize, no, it's a high elf building. There's a difference. Also inside the keep, in the dungeon down below it, is that scourged mayor of Wintergard town itself. It would be kind of nice if Blizzard, if you could phase so that once you take care of the Scourge in the Carrion Fields, the town of Wintergard is no longer crawling with undead. Because as someone who's always looking for interesting spots for RP, Wintergard is a very cute little town, and I kind of really enjoy it. So here we are inside the High Elf building, which is pretty cool looking, and then we're going to run over into the keep itself, which is kind of fun because they're having a briefing inside talking about how they're getting ready to assault Naxxramas with all of the enemies that you will be seeing. Kind of reminiscent of the enemies that you see down in the Exodore in the Hall of, I think it's the Hall of Lights. It just reminded me of that, but a little less purple. And there we have the former mayor of Wintergard, who is, he's not doing too good anymore. Definitely not. So, what everybody remembers about Dragonblight, obviously though, are the dragons. But I didn't realize, and probably stupidly, that there's a little troll base in Dragonblight as well. Also, here is that little campsite. It's just right up above Wintergard Keep, and for whatever reason, they're building a boat. Don't ask me why, because there's no water up on top of a mountain, but hey, they're building a boat. All good. But yeah, on to trolls. And the first thing I saw was this Drar Lake over here in this troll area. And I thought it was kind of cool. Evidently, if you present winter hyacinths in that circle, then the Maiden of Drakmar will appear during a quest called A Worthy Weapon. I don't ever remember actually doing that quest. I'm pretty sure I have, but maybe I've never actually done the Alliance side quest chain completely. Don't know. Anyway, the troll area is Jinta Kalar, and it is just east of Light's Trust. It was an ancient city of the Drakai before it was sacked by the Scourge. And speaking of Light's Trust, here we are in Light's Trust, where it kind of just looks like we've got some of the Argents who are just praying to the light. But cooler than that, I came over here for the Crusaders. I was like, oh, look at all these Crusaders. But then I realized there was a cave over there, and so I looked it up, and this is actually the cave where Arthas got Frostborn. Now, I've never actually played Warcraft 3. I know, it's terrible. So I don't have the experience of playing that game. But this is where Arthas and Modern Bronzebeard came to claim Frostmourne. And it is also where Arthas discarded his holy warhammer, Light's Vengeance, and left Muradin for dead. So I was like, well, look at that. A little bit of World of Warcraft history that I've heard about, but I don't know that I've ever actually come here. So there's Arthas's hammer, and, you know, if he had never picked up Frostmourne, things would be very, very different. But yeah, now we're going to do the whirlwind tour of the Dragonshires. Because of course we are. We're in Dragonblight. First place we're going to go is the Bronze Dragon Shire, which is a crater that is just northwest of Wintergard Keep, and Nosdormu himself is known to sit vigil amongst the deceased dragons. It's very, very warm and very, very sandy, and I remember very well, I think this might have been the first quest that I remember that Chromie was involved in, outside of, I don't remember in Classic if Chromie was involved in the Eastern Plaguelands quests or not. But it's a fun quest chain. You get to help yourself in both the past and the future. Kind of fun, a little wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. But you know, you're helping against the Infinite Dragonflight, who are a antagonist that we see over and over. Then, as we leave the Bronze Dragonshire, we're going to fly on over to the Emerald Dragonshire, where Ysera is sleeping in the middle. There's a misunderstanding, evidently. Nishera, the Garden Keeper, requested that Ysera aid the other dragons against the Scourge, and Ysera basically just turned all of the Shrine's defenders who were not of the Green Dragon Flight on aggro. So you have to kind of fix that particular situation. It's always good to see Ysera. Even if she is sleeping, it's good to see her alive in the game. Makes me happy. I do remember the fight against that particular Emerald Guardian, and at the time wishing that it could be a hunter pet instead of somebody that I had to kill because it was a cool model. Alright, then we have a very, very ruined Dragonshire, and that is the Azure, I keep calling it a Dragonshire, Dragon Shrine. Don't mind me, I've been calling it a Shire this entire video. Anyway, we've got the Azure Dragon Shrine. It is the shrine of the Blue Dragon Flight, and, well, since the Blue Dragon Flight was one of the big antagonists of Wrath of the Lich King, this is not a place that you want to go hang out. I mean, now I think of the Blue Dragon Flight, and all I think of is Caligos and how I just taught him the meaning of family not that long ago. But back in Wrath of the Lich King, it was a little bit more antagonistic. And then, of course, we're going to go to the home of Alexstrasza herself, the Ruby Dragonshire, where I learned that evidently this giant red tree in the middle grew from a single drop of Alexstrasza's blood, which I thought that was both creepy and kind of cool, you know, not gonna lie. Unfortunately, the Ruby Dragon Shrine is under massive attack by the Scourge, and I think in one of the raids you actually see that it ends up falling, at least in that raid. And then on to our very last dragon shrine here in the Dragon Wastes, and that is the Obsidian Dragon Shrine, where it actually hit me that I think all of the black dragons take a human form rather than an elven form. I could be wrong about it, but even back here, this is Serenar. He is a black dragon, and he is definitely in human form. I'm pretty sure that the one that is in the Blasted Lands is also in human form. Just a really interesting thing. Of course, I definitely prefer Rathion's human form, or even Sibelian's human form. But they all seem to take human forms. Oh, wait. Actually, no. Ebonhorn took on the form of a Tauren. So I just proved myself wrong. Oh, well. There's a really fun quest chain inside that volcano that I did on a Horde character not too long ago. It was a lot of fun. But since we're just doing the Whirlwind tour, it is time to head to the Wormrest Temple, where underneath we have not one, but 2 raids. They're very, very tiny raids. They're more like mini raids than full-on raids, but there are 2 raids underneath Wormrest Temple. Fun fact about me, I did not actually realize that there were raids under Wormrest Temple until about 3 years ago, because I'm not the world's biggest raider. Although before we get to Wormrest Temple, we do have to stop and just check out Galakron's bones. I think, honestly, that Galakron probably was way bigger than this. I think that Blizzard just didn't have the assets in Wrath of the Lich King to make him the almost planet-sized dragon that I at least always got the impression that he was. But it's still a cool area. But yeah, I did not realize for the longest time that there were 2 raids under Wormrest Temple. Goes to show just how much raiding and things I did not do, and honestly still don't do. I am the most hardcore casual anyone will ever meet. Actually, I can't even say I'm a hardcore casual. I think I'm a casual casual. I enjoy World of Warcraft, but I enjoy it on my own terms, which is probably the thing that I like most about World of Warcraft, is there's kind of something for almost everybody in the game, which is good. And then I just don't engage with the online fights about people who don't play the game correctly. But yeah, anyway, Wormrest Temple, up at the very top is where you can meet all of the dragons who are representing the various flights. You can have a flight on Dragonback getting up and down if you don't have your own flying mount, although I would say pretty much everybody does at this point. But it's always nice to have a bronze dragon taxi. But yeah, up here at the top we have Alexstrasza the Lifebinder and Crossus, her consort. They're hanging out and holding court up here. We have Lord Ithorus, the ambassador for the green. Caligos, who's hanging out,
to any challenge,
being the ambassador for the blue. Chromie is over here. This is also where you pick up the Chromie quests, the Many Deaths of Chromie, in case you were wondering. And last but not least, we also have Nalise, who is the ambassador for the Black Dragon Flight. Gotta love pretty much all of them. One last spot to go to with Beryl as we go along. Now we're going to go along the Path of the Titans really quick because I realized that some videos I remember to tell you where these are and other videos I completely forget. So if you are looking for the daily pet battle that is in Dragonblight, and for whatever reason you did not know where it was, well, now you do. It's right here at the end of the Path of the Titans. This is an easier fight than some. Just remember to bring humanoid pets, because humanoid is the one that counters dragon. Never sure why. Could be because humans are usually considered dragon hunters. Anyway, we're going to go on to Molokai Harbor, which is where our Tuskar friends reside. And possibly, I don't know, I always thought it was the most messed up quest that the Tuskar send you out on, and that is to go and collect the Wolvar children. They never say exactly why you're collecting them. I mean, they claim that it's so that they can raise them right, but yeah, it's kind of a messed up quest if you stop and actually think about it. We're just kidnapping Wolvar babies and handing them over to the Tuskar on a daily basis so that we can get a good fishing bowl. At least that's why I did it. There's also a really fun quest chain where you go on this massive spirit journey that the Tuskar will send you on, and eventually you end up at this island where you click on a pearl and are told to fling yourself into the deeps, and that proves your submission to the giant, I think she's supposed to be a goddess, but giant sea monster who is going to help the Tuskar. It's a fun quest. And then we only have one more spot to go with Beryl, and that is Star's Rest. It's just a little alliance camp just south of the Ice Mist village. It's a night elf camp that was built within the ruins of the Moonrest Gardens, and it's where you get most of your quests that will send you out towards Moonrest Gardens. So that's pretty much where we are going to leave it with Beryl. We're going to switch over now and check in with Onyx, who is going to touch upon the Horde side of Dragonblight and some of the things that Beryl might have missed. Probably not all of them, though, because I know I'm missing a lot. In fact, I realized that I had filmed a bunch, or thought I had filmed last night, a bunch of different stuff in New Hearthglen, but instead we're just going to get a quick little flyby from Onyx when the time comes. So, there we are with Onyx, who is hanging out in Venomspite, which is where the Horde is conducting its plague experiments, and it's also where, if you're a Horde player, if you've done the Wrathgate, you kind of, at least in my mind, are one of the causes of the Wrathgate. I mean, it's our experimentation that perfects the blight that is then used at the Wrathgate. I don't know why that bothers me as much as it does as a video game, but it sure does. But anyway, that was Venomspite. It's a place that makes me feel a little bit of guilt. Now we're gonna fly over New Hearthglen. Like I said, I thought I had filmed a whole lot more in here, but I really didn't. It's where the Scarlet Crusade has based themselves. They've journeyed to Northrend, and there is a really fun quest chain in there where you actually can read the diary of one of the Scarlet Crusaders and just kind of see how it's all gone wrong for them. It's a very, very interesting quest chain. But from there, since like I said, I did not actually have it unpaused all that long. We're going to fly back over Molokai Harbor on our way to the Moonrest Gardens, which is just a collection of highborn ruins, including what looks like a Temple of Elune. And now I just looked up at my video footage as I'm going and realized that I didn't talk about Lake Indui. It's a place where I only really know it from the stupid quest where the fishermen electrocute you. You can tell it's been a hot minute since I've been back to Dragonblight. But yeah, alright. On to Moonrest Gardens. You actually get sent out on your quests by a highborn spirit who normally would attack you, but because of the mage hunters at the Surge Needle area, they're willing to work with you, at least for a little while. Also, it just occurred to me, thankfully I've titled this Exploring with Beryl and Onyx and not Learn Lore with Beryl and Onyx, or I would have to out myself as a fraud, because lore I'm not great on. But ask me where you can find a house in almost any zone in World of Warcraft, and I can definitely tell you that. Alright, well, anyway, we're leaving Moonrest Gardens now, and we're gonna go first, I think, over to the Westwind Refugee Camp, which is a little Tanuka camp, and it is where the villagers of Tanuka Lee went after they found out that Ice Mist Village was taken over by the Scourge. It's also where you get to give the Horde Oath of Allegiance to the refugees after they agree to join up with the Horde, which is kind of a fun quest. So there we have all of the villagers. They look very, very exhausted. Can't say that I blame them. After all, if the Scourge just took over my village, I'd probably be exhausted as well. From there, after we leave the refugee camp, we're gonna head over to said Ice Mist Village. So over here in Ice Mist Village, it is at the edge of Lake Wintergrasp, which is where we're actually going to go next week, and it's a place that I know almost nothing about because PvP is probably the thing that I have done the very least in World of Warcraft. I'm terrible at it. But Ice Mist was ravaged by undead Nerubians, and it is currently controlled by the Scourge forces from Azol Narab, that I probably just butchered. They have the captured Tanuka chieftain Ronak Ice Mist, and it is your job to rescue him. I just like the way this village is laid out. It's another one that I really wish, now that the Lich King has been defeated, maybe we could actually see this not under Scourge control. I understand why Blizzard has things the way they are, because you want to go back and play those, but at the same time it would be cool if you didn't have to. Also, speaking of dungeons and raids, there are not one but two dungeons under here. One that I can find easily, and one that I almost always need somebody to lead me to. And yet again, I did not actually get it on film today, the second one, but I am very good at getting to the first dungeon. I'm not sure why I never think about Dragonblight as being a hotbed of dungeons and raids, when I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4... There's 3 raids and 2 dungeons in this zone. I always think of ICC and the whole Ice Crown area as being the hub of dungeons, but no, I think Dragonblight's pretty darn good at it. Alright, so our last major horde questing hub is Agmar's Hammer. Agmar's Hammer is actually the main horde base in Dragonblight, and during the war against the Lich King, supposedly the reason that the horde was there was to go and rescue Ronak Ice Mist, the High Chieftain of the Tanuka, but, you know, it's probably mostly just to push and make sure that the Alliance doesn't take control of the Dragonblight. The most interesting thing about Agmar's Hammer to me is that in the upstairs of the barracks/inn, there's actually a orphanage. So I don't know if many people know it. Probably lots of people do, but it took me by surprise when I first found it. If you go all the way to the very tippy top here at Agmar's Hammer, there's just Tanuka babies everywhere. I did have to zoom in on them, and yes, they look exactly the same as a Tauren baby. I was kind of hoping that maybe they would look a little different, but they don't. But I do have to say, Tauren babies are kind of cute. Also in Agmar's Hammer is the Death Knight Coltria, Deathweaver. He decided to join the Horde forces, and he sends you off on quests, and one of them I either always mess up or it's just a bugged quest, because I don't think I've ever finished his quest chain since the first time I did it way back in Wrath of the Lich King. There's his horse, sitting right over there. This is also the area where you turn the Scarlet Crusade's horses into Death Steeds. Always made me feel a little bit bad for the horses. And the very last place, and arguably the most important place in all of Dragonblight, is the Wrathgate. It's the barred entrance to Icecrown Citadel, and it is where Blizzard actually introduced us for the very first time to an in-game cutscene. And honestly, that cutscene holds up really well when you consider how old it was. I like to come back here not only just to kind of stand at the spot where history happened, but also to go and see Saurfang the Younger before he was raised as a Death Knight, and to go see Bolvar Foredragon before he became the new Lich King. So on every server that I play on, I have at least 1 or 2 characters that have never done the Wrathgate, just so I can go back and be like, hey look, there's Saurfang the Younger, and he's not dead. That's always a good thing. And then I can always go fly over and see Bolvar before he got, well, Bolvard. We'll just put it that way. Bolvar became Bolvard. I did find out, and I was kind of interested to learn, probably because in this quest chain the Horde and Alliance were working together, but although they're hostile, I did not get marked for PvP flying around on my Horde character over here, so I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, there is Bolvar, back before we knew he had a Talia. back before he got burned by dragon fire and hit by the Forsaken Blight. Good to see you, Bolvar. So yeah, that is Dragonblight. Like I said, next week we will be heading up to Wintergrasp, which I'm probably going to mess up everything in because I have no actual memories of that particular battleground, because PvP is the one thing in World of Warcraft that I've never actually participated in. So let me know your memories of Dragonblight or Wintergrasp, and as always, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about what I like about World of Warcraft. So till next time, thank you for joining me. Hit that like button, and I'll see you later. Say goodbye, Onyx.